Everybody has. Who knew what, when? And we're on top of that aspect of this. I want to make a little turn here. And sometimes in the midst of a story like this, there is that one person that stops you in your tracks, really. And for me, that person is Matt Bodenschatz, 38 years old. Child sex abuse survivor. He was molested by a relative 30 years ago, and he's buried this secret. And he was on a television show, WPSU college show, last night, and it was riveting to listen to his story. It was riveting to hear how, and it was innocence lost. It's just like what we're talking about here. In this case, it's 8 victims who were wide-eyed, innocent kids who thought they were going to be a part of Penn State football. That's childhood. With Matt, he was going on a summer hayride and a relative molested him. Innocence lost, and he uses that terminology. And he tells the story of burying the secret, almost telling his mom as they're watching the Donahue show years ago. Listen to this exchange and feel his emotions.
This daytime show was actually talking about the topic of childhood sexual abuse, and they brought up the statistics that we've all already batted around, 1 in 4, 1 in 6. And my mother was just quiet, and she just looked at me, and it was just my mother and me in the room. And she looked at me, attempting to sort of instill a conversation and get something going, and she said, you know, do you realize, you know, I'm one of 4 children. And the way my mother put it to me was...
And the youngest of 4.
The youngest of 4, and my mother had said to me, do you realize that that means statistically, and she used the word statistically, and I understood her, that 1 of the 4 of you will be abused. And I didn't say to her at the time, but I had in my head, I said, Mom, you're too late. Sorry. But, you know, she had tried, and I didn't even then, you know, she opened a door, and I didn't take it. And I just, anything that can be taught to prevent that.
It's just heartbreaking to listen to that, to think of a little boy thinking to himself, Mom, you're too late, and he kept that secret to himself until this scandal, until this broke. And as he puts it, on the backs of these 8 victims, he decided to write his story in the local paper and appear on that television show. And I talked to him about that, and his message is, there is no shame. It's time to reclaim your life. Let's listen.
This is a profoundly protected secret that I have told so few people that you could count it on less than one hand. But here I'm giving it to you. And this is going to go out to, I don't even know your circulation at this point, but I feel this needs to happen.
So why now? Why did you choose to tell your story now, write the piece now, and lay everything on the table?
Frankly, it's because I owe it to the victims in this current situation who were incredibly brave. We were talking about bravery. We were talking about courage. They are relatively young. I think, if I understand the math, the oldest of them is likely in their 20s or so. I am now 38 years old, in certain respects relatively young, but they're speaking out so much earlier than I did. The people that they live with, the people that love them, their support networks are helping them to speak out so much earlier than I did. The key to that, as far as their support networks, is they told them. I kept this thing secret. Why now? Because they, in a very positive way, made me. They made me have to face exactly who I was. They made me have to face exactly what I've experienced. And they made me have to face something I've known well before I started to put pen to paper, that until I did that in some fashion, to some degree, I was not authentic yet. I was not whole yet. I have felt since the day of publication, since Sunday, November 13, a brand new version of myself. And I like him.
I like him. What a wonderful story as he talks about coming forward now. And again, it's his hope that because he's telling his story, maybe there are other victims that will tell their tale as well. And he uses stark terms. He's talking about when he was molested at the age of 8 to 10, that little child was murdered. And that's what we have to realize when we talk about these victims. One other thing, Rochelle, that he talked about, you know, I asked him about, what do you tell parents, advice to parents? And I love what he said. He goes, love your kids. Love them so much that they know that you love them so much, there's no doubt if something were to happen, they would talk to you. Have an open door that they would have to come to you, and by nature and naturally, they would come to you. I mean, I'm telling you, as I've been here a while now, And this man, Matt Bodenschatz, gave me a whole new perspective, stopped me in my tracks, and brought me back to these victims and what they may be going through and their innocence lost and how they can move forward.
And you know, Mike, I think that what Matt is helping us do is have a different type of conversation about child sex abuse, because if we change the type of conversation we have, then victims will find it easier, hopefully, to come forward. And I think that's exactly what he is so significant in doing. And I like what he said, that he likes himself now. He should, because he didn't do anything wrong.
And one more thing, Rochelle, he was talking about the Penn State community welcoming these victims with open arms. May they find Penn State to be a safe place for them to go. And not just now, not just a few gestures, nothing symbolic, but for a lifetime. If they need help, he said, 40 years from now, you come and help them. And I love that sentiment.
Absolutely. It's great to hear from people like Matt. That was a great conversation, Mike. Thank you. Got some break.